welcome to Dear Katie, the podcast that amplifies courageous voices and real stories of resilience, healing, and hope after trauma. Inspired by the many letters Katie has received over the last 20 years, each week she interviews survivors, healers, and experts to honor their stories and explore the many paths to healing and hope. Before we begin, please know, many episodes of Dear Katie cover sensitive topics related to sexual violence, trauma, and recovery. Listen with care and take the space you need to take care of yourself. Your well-being is what matters most. Now, let's join Katie and today's guest for a conversation that matters.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Dear Katie podcast. As you know, I am Katie Kestner, your host for the show. We are so excited to continue on this journey. I always encourage every one of our listeners to keep that journal going. Self-care is everything. I am confident that you'll learn more and more from every one of our guests. I am overwhelmed that we have over 250 shows now. And David is going to be such a treat. His story is powerful like everyone's. So let me share a little bit about our guest today. So David Garlock is a successful returning citizen, reentry professional, and criminal justice reform advocate. David and his brother received 25-year sentences in Alabama after taking the life of their abuser. A client of Equal Justice Initiative, he was released on parole in 2013 after serving more than 13 years and pursuing several educational opportunities while he was incarcerated. He subsequently obtained a bachelor's degree from Eastern University and was the Lancaster Program Director for New Person Ministries, a reentry program for people convicted of a sexual offense and other returning citizens. He is a frequent speaker at colleges and universities, criminal and social justice conferences, as well as community events. And he wears many other hats as well. So we will learn more as we go. But welcome to the show, David.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and pleasure to be here with you today.
Yeah, for sure. So that was quite an intro. I think we're going to have to go back when it all started. Were you born in Alabama?
No, actually, I'm not even from Alabama. So I was actually born in Jacksonville, Florida. My dad was in the Navy. And so I was born October 5th, 1979. And I was actually named after a hurricane. So Hurricane David had come through Florida in September of 79. And my parents were like, oh, we're never going to name him David. And here I am, David.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
And then early on, my dad, with being in the military, he got transferred from Florida to South Carolina to Washington. And so pretty much of my childhood from 5 to 16 was in Washington State.
Oh, okay. Out west. And you see your dad was in the military. Did you move a lot or just mostly stay in Washington State?
We went from Florida to South Carolina to Washington. So those were the 3 moves while he was in the military.
Gotcha. And it was you and a brother, or did you have more siblings as well?
So I had another sister too. So it was our mom and dad, my older sister, my brother, and me. Okay.
And I'm not a military family, but my dad was FBI, so he was military and then FBI, so we had moved once, but I went from south to north. So it sounds like you had a couple more hops, but what was like acclimating, if you can remember, to each new city as you went, and then maybe the largest chunk when you were a teenager out west?
Yeah, I am 110% extroverted. So as far as me acclimating, that is something I've always been good at. My 8th grade year, I went to 3 different junior highs. And so knowing the people I did at the beginning of 8th grade or the people I grew up with, and then going to 2 other schools, here I am just jumping in and trying to make friends. And so it was definitely something that was difficult and hard, but that extrovertedness always helped out. And me being a drama person definitely was beneficial too.
Wait, do you mean drama like not like in drama theater?
Yeah.
You were in acting class. Okay. Like you were on the stage. Did you do the ones where you sing and dance and everything?
They would not want me to sing.
Okay.
What was funny as far as that is the church I went to when I was jobs from 6th grade to 10th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I was the lead my 7th grade and 8th grade year. The 7th grade year, I was in the choir. The next year, the pastor's wife, who was leading the musical, pulled me to the side and she's like, David, okay, you are the lead in this. You have a lot of lines to memorize. You don't have to worry about being in the choir. So nicely, she was telling me, we don't need you like ruining everything because you can't sing.
Okay, but you really enjoyed doing the theater stuff.
Oh yeah, I loved acting. My junior year when we were in California, I was Scrooge in A Christmas Carol. So I've always loved acting.
Okay. Okay. So then, when you graduated, were you the oldest one, or like where
No,
did?
I'm the baby.
Oh, you're the
So
baby.
my
Okay.
sister was 5 years older than me, and my brother is 3 years older than me.
Okay. And then you had the same. Your parents stayed married the whole time, and so you.
No,
Oh no.
no,
Okay.
they got divorced when I was 9, and my sister was kicked out of the house when I was like about 6 years old, because my dad really didn't know how to take care of her, and so she got kicked out, and her whole teenage life was spent either in a group home or on the streets, and she got involved with prostitution and drugs, and she contracted HIV by the time she was 17, and
Oh my
she passed
goodness.
away at 30.
Wow. Oh wow. What a life. I mean, that is a lot. And when you say your dad didn't, so when you got divorced, your parents got divorced, you and your brother and your sister were with your dad, not with your mom.
No, my mom, my sister was already out of the picture
Oh, she had
in the
left.
group home
Mhm.
before they got divorced. That
Okay.
was one of the things that I think was the tipping that caused the divorce to happen. Our
Mm.
mom actually got custody of my brother and me, but she was an unfit parent, and so she lost custody of us after 4 months. And then my brother and I went to stay with our uncle and aunt for 6 months while my dad was able to prepare himself to take full custody of my brother and me. And that was not good. My brother was doing drugs and drinking, and my dad threatened that if he continued to do this, he'd be kicked out of the house. My uncle and dad caught him one day. I think it was New Year's Eve, back in 1990, and he was kicked out of the house because of him having the marijuana. And so he went to a group home, and him being in this group home was really the thing that changed the trajectory of our whole life, because the individual who abused us had just gone out of prison in South Carolina, moved to Washington, befriended the person running the group home just so he could have access to young boys. And that's when
Oh,
he started molesting my brother.
oh my gosh. And how old was your brother at that point? Like,
My brother he had just turned 13 when it started with him.
mm-hmm.
And couple months later, this person forced my brother to move in with him, and then 4 or 5 months later, they went down to California, where my mom had moved, met a person that was 14 years younger than her, married him, and he told my mom and dad, "Hey, move back up to Washington, free room, free board. You don't have to do anything."
Mm-hmm.
And this was done just so he could have access to me. So the first time I saw my mom was January 1st, 1991. So I hadn't seen her in 2 years from when my parents got divorced. The first 4 hours of that experience was incredible. I hadn't seen my mom. I'm 100% mama's boy. So we're just basking in this place where we're together.
Mm-hmm.
And then this person's like, "Hey, let's play hide and go seek." And as an 11-year-old, that's what you do. So I went downstairs, found a good place to hide, hid in a closet. The person found me. He didn't say anything. he just proceeded to molest me. And so that was the first time that anything like that happened to me. And I walked up the steps and I was confused. I was in shock. I didn't know how to process what had just happened. I wouldn't have been able to define what had happened because I never learned about anything like that in school.
Mhm.
And he pulled me to the side and he told me if I ever told anybody, he'd kill my family and me. And so
Wow.
it was right then where I decided that I had to create these different masks so no one could know what was going on. And that's another thing that helped me become a good actor, these different masks. So I had one mask when I was at church. I had another mask when I was at school. I had another mask when I was on the football field because, especially back then, what would somebody say if I told them that my brother and I are being molested by a male? What
Oh my
back
gosh.
back in the 90s, what is the reaction going to be?
Right. It was not even talked about. Yeah, for context, David, 91 is when I was on the cover of Time magazine and I was 18. So this would have been in the same time. That was my world, and this was what your world was at that. And definitely no one was talking about men being abused at that point. So I think for our listeners, like, this is really hard back then. I mean, it's always hard, but I think getting context like this, there was deafening silence toward men abusing men, young boys, really. I was going to ask, the first time when that happened in the closet, do you remember like your emotion at all? Like, were you shocked? Were you angry? Were you scared? Were you like, what is this? I don't even know these body parts. Like, was it confusion? Like, do you remember? I know it was a
It
while
was
ago.
definitely confusion, definitely shock, definitely this whole process of trying to figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as you said, I mean, I don't know that these body parts are to be used for stuff like this. I mean, before this, all I did was use it to go to the bathroom. You know,
Right.
I had never had any introduction or anything to like the sexual organs in this type of way.
Mm-hmm. And did you know at that point about what your brother was going through? You didn't even know what he was.
No, I didn't know at that point that this was happening to him too. It wasn't for probably a couple more months. And a lot of people, because mine and my brother's story mirrors the Menendez a lot. So there's a lot of questions like with Eric and Lyle, their abuse never happened at the same time. You know, it was one or the other was being abused. With us, there were times that we were abused at the same time. And so it was something where we knew what each other was going through.
Oh gosh, that's awful. And so he took you back, both of you. Your brother was already with him, and he took you. And then, right?
He didn't take me because at that point I was still living with my dad.
Okay.
But every time I came over to see my mom, which my dad wanted me to come see her all the time. And so anytime I was over there, the abuse was happening. It was later on where he had forced me to drop out of school and to move in. And that was right around 18. And that's where a lot of the physical abuse really took over too, where we were in California, then we went up to Nevada for a couple months, ended up in Louisiana, and then Alabama. And just from that point, it was just about constant physical abuse. Anytime that my brother and I would flirt with somebody at work or something like that, he would beat the crap out of us. There was an instance in Louisiana when the three of us were working as waiters at the Morgan City Grill. It was like 2 a.m. this Saturday morning. The other local restaurant had shut down. So I have this four top. So three young ladies and one guy. And as a 19-year-old waiter, 18-year-old waiter, what do? You flirt. That's how you make money. So I'm sitting there flirting with the three girls. And the bathroom was right next to the table. And typically I'd go into the bathroom, use the restroom, wash my hands, and then count my tips. So I was going into the bathroom, and the abuser followed me in there. And he locked the door, and he asked me, "What the F are you doing?" And he just grabbed me by the throat, pushed me up against a paper towel dispenser, and choked me out. The next thing I know is he's punching me to bring me back to consciousness.
At the restaurant?
Yeah.
And did he work? How was he there? He just was.
He was. All three of us were waiting tables.
Oh, I got you. Your brother too.
Yeah.
And just to clarify in my head, David, I think I messed up on one point. Like, you have such a like roller coaster. Oh my gosh, of growing up. So your mom and dad split when you were 9, I think. You said around 9, and then your sister had gone, and your brother was misbehaving and was put in a home, right? And then you were still living with your mom at that point?
No,
or your dad. With your dad. And then, because your mom wasn't allowed to be fit for being a parent. Mm-hmm. And then your brother was eventually then in a home, you said, and there was who was the man that came and got your brother out of the home? Did he get with your mom?
No. I mean,
that's
my
part
mom,
I messed up on.
Yeah, my mom and stepdad moved from California to Washington because this person who was abusing us promised them everything under the sun.
Oh,
it
so
was part of his
they
grooming.
Moved to get near your abuser with you. Oh gosh, that is really calculating, David.
Yeah, and when my brother and I were in the county jail, when we were first arrested, we weren't in the same cell or the same dorm because they wanted to keep us apart. But in February of 2000, so we were arrested I was arrested October 29th, 1999. My brother was arrested 3 weeks later in Florida. So we were separated for about 3 months. But then they moved my brother into my dorm, and then we moved into the same cell. And we received our first letter from our mom. And around that time, around January, February, and around March, April time, she wrote a letter and she's like, "David, Joe, can you share with me everything that happened?" So we sat down one Friday at 3 p.m. and we didn't finish writing a letter till Sunday afternoon, evening. It was 30 pages front and back. And my writing is like Time Romans 12 font. That is my writing, how small it is. And so just think about Time Romans, single space, 30 pages front and back. And we sent the letter. May, June, July come, nothing. We get something in August, and I couldn't even comprehend or understand what was written on the outside of the envelope, but it was from my stepdad. And there was a little note that said, "Your mom died of a massive heart attack while writing you a letter."
Oh my goodness.
So here it is. My mom was 46 years old, and she was writing us a letter. She had finished my letter and was halfway through my brother's letter when she passed away. And in our letters, she was proud that we were getting our GEDs, that we were taking advantage of our time in the county jail. She did state that she thought things were going on as far as the abuse, but really didn't know. And so she never asked. She didn't know how to ask or what she should have done. And so I mean, that was something that was hard, a hard pill to swallow and to take in, where it's like you thought things were going on, but you never asked. But I also think too is like, if she did ask, would I have told her? Because of that insurmountable fear that I had from that initial time the abuser told me that he'd kill my family and me. And
Yeah.
as the years went on, I really believed that more and more because of what he did and the actions that he showed.
Yeah, I'm just processing all the stuff you're sharing. It's a lot, David. I think, I guess I want to ask more, if you're okay talking about, like, so this starts when you're 11. It escalates from sexual, then also, did the sexual stop at any point and then it was just all the
No,
time?
it's all the time, and sometimes multiple times.
Did you
Sometimes
ever, oh, I was going to say, did you ever, when you and your brother were in the same spot, were there other boys besides the two of you, or you don't know?
I don't know. I mean, with us, we know that it was happening with us. I mean, he was constantly on different computer sites and stuff. This was also back in the 90s, so he was on
Right.
like Yahoo a bunch, and chatting with people. I mean, we weren't really aware of a lot of that because he would do it when we were at work. Right around the time that the murder happened, both my brother and I were the only ones working. So he would be in the apartment that we all had by himself doing whatever. And every day leaving that apartment, there was like this big sense of relief because it kind of felt like I was getting out of prison. Because I was going to experience my like Cinderella moment. You know, I was no longer going to be just this useless person just in a house. I was able to like experience what life was and to interact with other people and not. For the most part, I didn't have anybody breathing down my neck, but the abuser at times would stand outside the restaurant and just watch what my brother and I were doing. And if we were flirting with another waitress or we were flirting with a customer, when we got home, we got the crap beat out of us.
And that explains also like the concept you expressed before with the different masks or faces you would wear. And then I guess what was like the tipping point for you and your brother to commit, to kill him? And how did that come about? What age were you guys?
Well, I was 19 and my brother was 22. And unlike the Menendez brothers, my brother and I, we never planned anything like this. It was just a spur of the moment. And in psychology, it talks about seeing red. And it's that point where something happened and we were just filled with so much rage and hatred and animosity and anger, and just everything exploded. And that's where the murder came from. And there's still times today where I'm just really baffled that we did it. I mean, I would have never thought that we could have done something like that. But then it just shows that our emotions, when we bottle things up and we don't deal with them, what we're able to do when you have that point of that explosion and everything just comes out like it did.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. I can't even imagine. And I guess, can you talk about that day? Like, what was the flashpoint? Was he assaulting you then, or
no? It was just a point where everything just bubbled up, and my brother and I had been drinking, which is what we would always do to cope. We drank and used drugs, and that was how we got through life. I couldn't even tell you when the last time, as far as during that point, I couldn't even tell you when I wasn't drunk or wasn't high, because that's how I got through it. I mean, there was a 4-month period from the murder to when I was arrested, and it was the same way. Every day I was drunk, high, or drunk and high, because that's how I got through that. Because not only was I living with the abuse that I endured for these 8 years, now I was living with the fact that I had taken somebody's life, and no one knew about it.
Right. You mean no? When the murder happened, what? I guess can you? Nobody.
Yeah. So
what did you guys do? Was it a gun, or you had a gun, or?
Oh, I mean, I don't really talk about how that happened.
Okay.
But we didn't have a core or anything, so we just buried the body in the backyard, and then it took them 4 months to find it. And yeah, I mean, that was another time where I was filled with so much fear, because I was worried about them finding the body and what would happen, and what life would be like. Because this is Alabama. They love giving out the death penalty. They love giving out life without parole. So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen to us if we ever get caught.
And how was your brother? I guess another thought I was having is, like, were you two able to support each other in any way, or like just the numbing out together was just your way of coping? Like,
you're talking about during the abuse?
Yeah, or even after. Yeah.
During the abuse, the abuser actually played us against each other. That is how he gained control and kept control of us, because he knew that if we ever came together that we would overpower him and do something like we did. So that was his manipulation, that was his grooming, and just total way of controlling us, is to make it where we hated each other. Even though we were in the same area, he just wanted us where we hated each other and wouldn't come together and have that united front. After the murder, a week after the murder, my brother left. And so him and a girl that he was dating at that point that we worked with went to Florida. And so that's where he was arrested, after I was arrested. And so here it is. I'm still in Alabama, still working at Shoney's, and one of the guys that I was working with moved in. And so then the porting went to another level then, because now I'm actually with people my age. I actually have a life. And I always tell people that, when the murder happened, it was a semblance of freedom, but it was still another prison, because I created this prison of now having taken somebody's life and not being able to tell anybody. I couldn't tell my roommate. I couldn't tell the girl I was dating. I couldn't tell anybody, because what would have happened? They potentially would have told, and then I would have ended up being arrested sooner than I was.
Wow, that is so stressful. And when did you have a trial, or was there?
So we had court-appointed lawyers. So in Alabama, you can have a defense attorney, you can have a public defender, or court-appointed lawyer. Court-appointed lawyers are defense attorneys that have to do a certain amount of these court-appointed cases a year. And my brother and I got two pitiful lawyers that didn't want to do anything for us.
Oh, no.
Another thing to note about court-appointed lawyers is they get $1,000 for the whole case. So our lawyers were on our case for 15 months.
Wow.
And all they got paid was $1,000. So do you think a lawyer that's getting paid $1,000 for being on the case for 15 months is actually going to do much?
Right. Not.
And so there were, when Brian Stevenson and the Equal Justice Initiative got involved with our case in 2008, there were multiple things that they found where our lawyers were ineffective counsel. So if we were in any other state, we would have been able to appeal it, but Alabama has such a short time span to appeal a case, we weren't able to.
Ugh.
And so our lawyers came to us and said, the only thing that they're going to offer you is a 25-year plea for murder. There's nothing else where this is the only deal. And so my brother and I, we were agreeing to the system. We didn't know that we should have pushed back. And then my lawyer told me something I'll never forget. He's like, David, if you have to serve all 25 years, you'll still be a young 45 when you get out.
Mm.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm 21 years old right now. I don't even know what being 25 looks like, let alone serving 25 years. That was like so foreign to me. And the smugness that he had when he said this, I'm like, snap, that's not cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
And so we signed the paperwork and we accepted the 25-year sentence.
Wow. That's like tragedy on tragedy. Have you been active? I guess my brain went to like changing laws and policies. Have you are you working with anyone to try and get better laws changed in Alabama or anywhere else?
I mean, I really haven't done a lot of policy work as far as that. What I do more is I'm a public speaker, so I've spoken in 99 colleges and universities across the country, and it's really my space right now is more about education, and it's important that we talk to kids, we talk to college age individuals and let them know about the situation, let them know about like the rape kit backlogs, let them know that 95% of sexual offenses are happening by somebody the person knows, let them know, especially in our digital age, that I mean, if you're sharing nude pictures or stuff, if you're sexting, and that gets sent to somebody else, you all can be charged with disseminating child pornography. And these are conversations that aren't being had in sex ed. They're not being had in other areas, and they're definitely not, most of the time, not being had by parents. I had a conversation with somebody I know, and their 13-year-old son had been doing stuff like that, and I told them like they could go to prison for that. And the person's like, wait, what? They're kids. They didn't know better. It's like, okay. But the laws really haven't changed, or the laws that were created weren't created for cell phones and the likelihood of kids sharing, sexting, etc. So, I mean,
I want to go. I wanted to finish asking a couple more questions before we talk about like what you're doing now, David. Just when you got out early, finally, through the help of what was the organization?
So Brian Stevenson and the Equal Justice Initiative.
Okay, and so that was in what year? Because you were there
April 1st, 2013.
Okay, 13. Oh my gosh, so 14 years, right? And did you? I think you said you and your brother were kept separate while you were in the prison, but it was the same location or separate?
No, that was the county jail where were separated, but then we were in the same cell for a while. In prison, we went to prison the same day, so January 26th, 2001, we go to prison.
Okay.
We were there in the same quarantine dorm for like 3 days, and then we went to other dorms in the prison. But then we were transferred the same day. So I got to see my brother get into a prison van and take off. And I didn't see him for another 8 years because Alabama had a law back then, or rule, that family members couldn't be at the same prison. And so they changed that in 2007, and we were at the same prison for a year then. And so it was really good to see him. But he and I really don't have a strong relationship now. And I think that's because he really hasn't done work on the trauma that we endured, or the added trauma that prison did. And so I use this analogy about a scab and a score. And so if we have a scab and that scab comes off, it's going to bleed, it's going to be painful. A day later, another scab's going to be there. But if that scab gets knocked off, it's going to bleed, it's going to be painful. And that's the analogy of that's the person who hasn't dealt with their trauma. That is the person that is okay for a little bit. They get triggered. They're back to the 8-year-old self when the abuse began. They're stuck there for a little bit. Then they're able to get back into a semblance of normalcy. But then they're triggered again, and it's that cycle.
Yeah,
Now,
that's
a score, if you have a score and you hit that score, nothing's going to happen. No bleed, no pain, no bleeding, etc. But that score, you can look at that and you're reminded about everything that happened as far as to get that score. And I always tell people that people who have scores are able to show them to people who have scabs and let them know that healing is possible.
That's a great way to put it, David. And then I was going to ask, I'm sure our listeners are like so interested to know, as a male survivor, what were some of the things that you found helpful to get able to process all that you went through? Like, what were some of the things did you do them on your own? And I guess, like, even before that, I was wondering, in prison, did they separate, like, because you're, definitely this is murder, but it's also victimization, like a sexual
They don't care.
They don't care.
No, I
So
mean,
they just
prison
lock you all
system.
together.
Yeah, and I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
prison systems don't care really about anything like that. It back in the 70s, when our prisons were actually about rehabilitation, they might have, but right now it's just about punishment. So they're not really concerned about anything like that, especially the Alabama Department of Corrections. If your audience wants to watch a great documentary, there's a good one about the Alabama Department of Corrections called The Alabama Solution. So it's something that would definitely shed some light about that system that I was in for 13 and a half years.
Did you meet any other men there who were even, I don't know, who were ever abused as well, or did you?
Yeah, I
Okay.
definitely did. And what was interesting too is some of the people that were in there for committing sexual offenses were actually abused as children. And when that's something that really opened my eyes some to, as far as individuals who have committed sexual offenses, and realizing that it's not always just about the component of needing power or sexualization. At times it's a learned response. This is something that they learned as a child, that this is how you show love, or this is how you show that you care about somebody. And that's why it's so important for individuals who are abused, sexually abused, trafficked, assaulted, to get that help, to get that therapy, to really begin to process what happened to them, and not to internalize it and to think like, wow, this is how I show love to somebody.
Right. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's the cycle that we have to definitely break, amongst others. But I'm glad. Thanks for sharing that. I was curious, and you have such a unique ability to know the answers to a lot of questions probably people have, because it's lived experience. But that was, yeah. What kinds of things did you do that were helpful, in coping and finding that resiliency and figuring out how to, like, not see it happening over and over and over, right?
Well, I mean, in the TEDx I did, this called Beyond the Mask, Overcoming Trauma and Abuse, I talk about the masks, but there were three main things that allowed me to begin to take the mask off. The first was when I confessed to the crime, because talking about what happened to you is so relieving, because what you're doing is you're taking this weight that you have carried by yourself for so long. It has weighed you down. It has been this debilitating anchor that you've been dragging. And now you're able to release it. Now you're able to say, okay, help me with this. And so that is definitely one thing. The second thing was having this interactive with the detective after I confessed to the crime, that we're heading to the county jail. After I confess, I'm looking at him. I'm like, okay, am I going to get the death penalty life without parole? He's like, do you believe in God? I'm like, okay, am I going to get the death penalty life without parole? He's like, do you believe in God? I'm like, okay, am I going to get the death penalty life without parole?
Right.
He's like, do you believe in God? And that conversation changed the whole trajectory of my life, because as a child, I went to church. I read the Bible, I memorized scripture, but I had this struggle. I'm like, how could a good father allow this to happen to me and my brother? But then, in prison, and as I'm studying the Bible, I realized that, yes, he was always a good father, but it wasn't God who did it. It was this person in the world who had the sin and everything in him that did it. Now, God was always there to protect me and to keep me safe. And that's why I didn't die the times that this person tried to kill me. And that was so powerful. And the third thing that helped me take off the mask was I was in this behavior modification program in prison. Prison programs, you get more help doing things yourself. Like the more books you read, more self-help books, things like that, you're going to get more out of it, because our counselors were pitiful. They were just there for a paycheck. And it's really sad that that's the case. But I was reading a self-help book about child sexual abuse. I came to this point that said kids that are abused blame themselves for the abuse. And I had this aha moment. I was like, wait, what? I've been blaming myself for all of these years and I didn't do anything wrong. So I was able to have this conversation with 11-year-old David and to forgive him and to tell him he did nothing wrong. And that was so powerful.
I can imagine. That sounds like super liberating.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I've been doing ever since is counseling, because it is so powerful to go and seek counsel, to talk to these individuals who know all of these different types of therapies that you can process. Not everybody's going to process it the same way. Actually, I've done some books too, as far as dealing with trauma of individuals who were sexually abused as kids. And then talk about it. The more you talk about it, the more power you have over it. And then you get to rewrite how your past plays in your present and your future. And then another thing is, if you have creative outlets, like I love to write poetry. And poetry is a way that I'm able to express my story too, in different aspects of what I've experienced, in a way that storytelling can't do, because of the different imagery that you're able to create when you're writing.
Right. That's great. Do you have I keep telling all our listeners, journal along, or maybe write some poetry and whatever else might work. But those are super helpful tips, David. And I guess we touched a little bit on the work you're doing now as a public speaker. And you said you've been to how many campuses? A ton, it sounds like.
So 98 colleges here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
and one virtually in London at the University of Worcester. And so
Okay.
my 100th presentation is going to be at the University of Wyoming, October 1st and 2nd. So it's
Yay.
really crazy to think that I've been able to do this, because the first presentation I ever did was April of 2017. My professor at that point, Professor Gina Curry, also was teaching at LaSalle University, and so she's like, "David, do you want to come speak at LaSalle? You have spring break next week. Come speak to my students." And I was like, "Sure." And so at that point, all I had was I was in prison for 13 years, and I had been in school for 2.5. It's like there's really not much more to it, but just the impact that my story had on the students, the way that they were so receptive, and the questions that they had, I just fell in love with it. I was like, wow, this is so amazing that I'm able to take my story and I'm educating these kids in college. I'm giving them a different perspective. I'm changing the narrative where they expected. I mean, I asked the students, I'm like, when your professor said that they were bringing somebody in, what were y'all expecting? This Latina girl in the back raised her hand. I was like, yes. It's like, we were expecting somebody who was black or brown skin, went to prison for drugs or robbery. And then she's like, our professor brought in a white dude that went to prison for murder. I'm just like,
That's
I was
awesome.
like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
But I would have never imagined back then that stepping into that place and sharing my story
Mm-hmm.
would have opened up so many doors.
Yeah, it's fantastic, David. Like, I feel like you went through so much, and you've made some really great choices about what you. It kind of goes back to like your love of theater. Like, you were built for this. Um, you were built for this stage. You always loved it, and it also feels probably really freeing to have such a warm reception. Is there? Yeah.
One
Go
thing
ahead.
that is so powerful
Hmm.
is almost everywhere I speak, there's at least one person that comes up and tells me about their own story, about being sexually abused or having something happen to a family member. And I always tell them, I'm like, forget everybody else that was here. You were the reason that I was supposed to be here. And this is so powerful that you came up. And I'm like, this is the first step. You're up here, you're talking about this. But the next step is seeking counseling and begin to process. Because I always tell people, trauma is not something that you're going to be able to work out in 6 months and you're done. It's not like an actual scar that in 2 weeks you're going to have a scar and it's over. It's going to be a lifelong process where you're constantly working things out, because you might think you're at a good spot and then you smell something or you see somebody and it triggers you. It might not trigger you like it once did, but now you have to process that. Like, okay, why did this affect me like it did? What about that person? What about that smell? And then you have to go back and just not begin the whole process again, but process that one aspect.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm so glad we were able to connect and bring your story to our listeners and all the Take Back the Night folks out there. We are really honored that you went through all you did, and now you're so strong. And I'm excited to hear you speak at some point, maybe at one of our own Take Back the Night events. So that is fantastic, David. And I know you have the TEDx talk you mentioned. Is there anything else we can put in show notes for folks to go learn more about your work?
I mean, my website is davidlgarlock.com. I
Okay.
also have a small role in the movie Just Mercy, so they can watch
Okay.
that and Brian
Okay.
Stevenson's amazing work. And then, on all my socials, on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, it's just David Lee Garlock.
Sounds perfect. Well, thanks so much for joining us. And listeners, keep that journal going. And, whatever you took away from today's conversation, I'm sure it was meant, for you today. Just like I kind of that car ride and those little moments when somebody says something and it just clicks and all of a sudden it opens the whole nother, door to how you think about things. Those are the best, especially when we've been through dark spots. So listeners, together we are definitely thriving, and survivors together are so much stronger. So you are never alone. That is the whole purpose of our Survivor Story podcast. There are all of us walking around somewhere at any given moment. So take care, and until next week, be well.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Dear Katie. These conversations are never easy, but they're always necessary, and we're so grateful you chose to share this space with us. If something in today's episode stirred something within you, please give yourself what you need. Whether that's rest, support, or just a deep breath, you're not alone. To hear more stories, resources, and survivor-centered conversations, be sure to subscribe and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. We want to hear from you, so please leave us a review and share your feedback. Your thoughts help us create episodes that resonate with listeners. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.